This episode of XIV Reborn is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker and get your 30 days and a free book.
Gamebreaker TV.
Oh, yes, it's that time of week again. It's Monday. Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to 2015, and welcome to XIV Reborn, your show for all Final Fantasy XIV related stuff right here on GameBreaker.tv. And joining me, as he always does, he'll keep it short, 38 minutes. It's Mr. Happy.
Okay, listen, I can't promise that this show will be short. I can't promise that at all. Yeah, there we go.
Just
hi.
Flexing it a little
I'm
bit.
sorry, I didn't see you there.
Hello.
Hello, I didn't even notice you.
I didn't even notice you there.
Yeah.
Had I noticed you, it would have been over
literally,
there.
I can't see your camera, so I didn't.
Yes, if you weren't joining us for the pre-show, the workout talk probably means absolutely nothing to you, so make sure, if you can, we'd love to have you join us live, twitch.tv/GameBreaker. We've got, I thought it wasn't going to be a whole lot to go over today, and in theory, there isn't, but we came up with a lot. We came up with a lot.
Oh, yeah. We're not announcing another new job or anything, but we have stuff to talk about.
Right, we do have stuff to talk about. I mean, we had already come off the fan festivals and the 2.5, 2.51, 2.5X, all that stuff on our last show right before the New Year's break that we took for a week there. And there was a ton of news on that one, and I thought, man, they're not going to drop any news.
Nope.
In the next 2 weeks, what the hell are we going to do the show about? And then we got like one or two things, and we're like, we can make a show out of this. We could totally, Happy could find a way to talk for an hour about this stuff. Let's do it.
You could have had nothing to talk about. I could have found something to talk about for an hour.
All right, so first we're going to go back and revisit a little bit of the 2.5, 2.51 discussion. Hello, and chat's already, hello, Mike and Mike. Hello.
Eminem.
And so we do need to go back and touch on that because some interesting things happened this week.
Very.
Yoshi P dropped his update, his Happy New Year's letter on the website, and it had some nice information in it, but it was 24 hours late, to be honest.
Well, here's the thing. It just took that long to get over to the English lodestone.
Right.
It was actually on the Japanese lodestone a lot earlier, and it was on the European one, probably because it was as the New Year's was actually coming in, more importantly, for a lot of people. Hey, listen, with what it had in there, it's better late than never.
So the big piece of it is patch 2.5. We heard the day before that Yoshi P had apparently said during a Nico stream 2.5 was going to drop January 20th. And both you and I kind of held back, and you had mentioned in one of your other videos, I'm going to wait for English confirmation of that date before we put anything up. And then the following day, this post comes up. It doesn't say January 20th, but it does say end of January. So that gives you the 20th and the 27th, basically.
Yeah.
One or the other. I'm thinking it's going to be the 20th. I don't think you accidentally put that number out there.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be, again, because it was never actually, like, officially announced on a Final Fantasy XIV outlet, it was just in more like casual talk with Nico. I'd still just call it a target date, which I know they've avoided that in the past just because then it sets expectations. I'm expecting it'll be the 20th too. It just so happens to be a Tuesday like we normally get it. So it lines up perfectly, and it lines up perfectly with what the post says we'll be getting, well, when we'll be getting it.
Earlier or later than you thought? Were you surprised by the date?
That's the earliest one. That's the earliest patch. That's the earliest set of patches ever come out after the last one. It's exactly 11 weeks after the prior patch, which is less than 3 months. We've been pretty much on a 3.5 month average, even though it's been a goal of 3. It was basically 4 and then 3 and then like 3 to 3.5 until now. It's less than 3.
Yeah. This is a little earlier than I thought, and it kind of made me rethink the rest of my timeline, too. Because we kind of speculated on the last episode that we did a potential Heavensward release period. We didn't put a date on it. We weren't ready for that prediction yet.
You were smart about it.
We just kind of put a period on it. We knew spring 2015, here's the 3 months, where do you think it's going to fall? This kind of made me rethink my own personal timeline on that. And let's show it. You were talking about the release schedule. So this is what we've had so far. Kind of impressive when you think about it and you compare it to big content updates from other AAA MMOs out there.
14 months. Sorry, I got a bad cough. I couldn't. I'm sorry. Let's get back on track. I'm sorry.
So we have Realm Reborn launching 8/27, and then 3 months later, well, almost 4 months later, patch 2.1, 2.2 in March, 2.3 in July, 2.4 in October. Now we're having 2.5. I put the date of 1/20 in there. They also talked about 2.51. Now, they didn't put a date on that in Yoshi P's post, but typically those supplementary patches come about 2 to 4 weeks after the primary patch. Do you think that's going to hold up for this one, or are we going to see a little more of a delay just because of how big this one is? We're not normally receiving supplement patches with the Manderville Gold Saucer and all this extra stuff in it.
You know, this is going to be one of those few times where I just don't know. Here's the thing, and I kind of want to get to the date for the second half of Before the Fall to help me with my prediction, but
yeah, and I've got that on the screen right now. They said in the posting that it was going to be the end of March. So in my little mock-up here, I gave them that 1 week benefit that we're giving them for patch 2.5. I put it on Tuesday 3/24. It could, of course, be 3/31. That would still technically be March.
Yeah. So if that's supposed to be the halfway point between 2.5 and the expansion, 2.51 probably be closer to a full month, I think, than the usual 2 weeks that we're going to get. 2.41, I'm pretty sure, was 3 weeks. I think this one's going to go the distance and be a full month after the patch.
So that means we could expect, sticking with Tuesdays just because it's generally the release day, that means we would probably, and assuming that the 20th is 2.5 and not the 27th, that would put 2.51, at February 17th.
Yeah.
I think it sounds about right.
That sounds right to me.
I
would go with that. I didn't know off the top of my head which days was Tuesday, but if that's about a month after and that's on a Tuesday,
that's 4 weeks if 2.5 releases on the 20th. If it releases on the 27th, then back the 17th up to the 24th of February. So then that puts 2.5x. I mean, can we just call it 2.55 until we know a number?
Yeah, please. It's 2.55. That's what it is.
They teased it as the end of March. So that kind of seems like, wow, we're going to be getting story patch at the end of this month, big patch at the end of February, big patch at the end of March. That's an MMO fan's dream, right? Big patches of content monthly. And obviously they're not going to keep that up, but it seems to flow nicely into the expansion.
Absolutely. I mean, there's not really much more to say. It flows perfectly into it. I wish every in-between patch had been more like this one, as opposed to the way they were, just mostly hot fixes and stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of thought, well, these little supplemental patches, they do come out 2 to 4 weeks on average, but they're really tiny. You know, could we maybe see this one leak into the beginning of March because it is a bigger patch? But then I'm looking at it going, they have this all done. I mean, it's done and ready to go. For the most part,
I think they're excited to get it out, to be honest.
At this point. So then that puts the big question on the table. We've got 2.5 end of January, 2.51 end of February, 2.55 end of March. We know spring 2015 is the Heavensward advertised period. Technically speaking, spring starts on March 20th and ends on June 21st in the Northern Hemisphere here. Just technically speaking, in my mind, I gotta take March out of it. There's no way it's coming out at the end of March. We're gonna get 2 point. Right. We're getting. Hey, the day after. Here you go. And that, to me, that obviously, I think that takes April out too. Otherwise, people don't have any chance to experience the content. So that leaves the entire month of May and almost the entire month of June, where are you putting the Heavensward expansion? It's time to make your prediction.
Believe it or not, I'm going first week of May.
Wow.
Now, first week of May is me with one mentality. Realistically, last week of May will probably be when it happens, but my prediction is first week of May. The big reason, normally the second part, they would have just called it 2.55 right off the bat. The fact that they're leaving it as a mystery means they don't want you to know how close it is to the expansion. It's always been the 0.5 patch will come halfway, and they have refused to call it the 0.5 patch. Considering what is in the patch, Battle of Ishgard, it would be really strange to fight for Ishgard, do whatever we're supposed to be doing in that instance or whatever it's supposed to be, and then wait 2 months before we actually go to the next area. I think the reason they're not telling us it's 2.55 is because it's going to be the beginning of May.
So that would put it, sticking with Tuesdays, just as our general frame of gaming reference, that would put it at Tuesday, May 5th. I don't know.
You got the calendar up. My phone's over there.
Here's the reason that and you guys may probably notice my prediction on the picture here. I went ahead and penciled mine in on the image here. I'm going to go with June 9th, sticking with Tuesdays. June 9th. It's almost the end of spring, but it's not the very end, so that people say, oh, great, they're going to wait till the very last minute of spring and release the damn thing. And I went with the June 9th, because I think your May time frame is just a little bit too early. Here's my rationale. Let me explain. You got 2.51 the end of January, and then the continuation of that story in 2.55, they're giving a full 2-month gap to for you to be able to play that story arc. Because, yeah, 2.51 is going to have a lot of cool stuff, but it in no way impacts the story arc for Before the Fall, right?
Yeah.
So they're giving you 2 full months to play through part 1 of the Before the Fall story. I don't think on the back end of that, tying everything up, they would then only give you 4.5, 5 weeks to finish 2.55. So I'm going to give you another full 2 months there, from the end of March to the beginning of June, and put it at the June 9th, Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the only reason I went with the first week of May is just because they've refused to call it 2.55. As soon as they call it 2.55, I won't even have to wait for them to give me an actual date. I'll know I was wrong. It's just the fact that they keep calling it 2.5x just screams to me that they just don't want us to start guessing or to have accurate guesses about when the expansion's actually coming out. That's the only thing that gives me that 1st of May guess. Otherwise, I would go last week of May, but I'm sticking with my gut. First week of May, it's what I'm going with.
All right, so you've got first week of May. I've got June 9th. We'll have to see. Battle of Ishgard will be more likely, the equivalent of the pre-X-Pack from WoW. Any more than 4 to 6 weeks is too much. Okay, chat already disagreeing with my my June 9th date. They tend to be going with you in May.
We don't even know what Battle of Ishgard is. I agree with chat, but I think it's going to be like the Praetorium, where it's an 8-man story dungeon kind of deal. And for that, honestly, I wouldn't mind experiencing that on my main scenario roulette every day for a little while. But
Yoshi P.
Until we know more, it's that's why it's speculation. We don't know.
Yep, that's why I put question marks into image. And then, of course, Yoshi P. Caps off the post with a lovely bit of from the Journal of Louisoix. To naught but the ivory spear shall ebon mail yield, yet her point remains ever trained upon scales of black. Peer deep into the dust which swirls in our wakes, and know the bloody dance of light and dark to be everlasting. Now, the last few times we've seen plaques like these, they have, of course, teased upcoming patch content to some degree. What do you got? What do you got from this one?
The last one was for Dreams of Ice, wasn't it? That was the only other one I remember seeing.
There was one for Defenders of Eorzea patch, wasn't there?
I thought that one talked about Rime-Kissed Blade. I don't remember. I have to go back and look, because I remember Rime-Kissed Blade and thinking Shiva. This one, so Ivory Spear, on Ivory Spear of Ebon Mail, obviously the Dragoons of Ishgard. Ivory Spear. Ivory is usually made of bone or tooth or teeth or some other different parts of animals.
Tusks,
I don't quite remember. tusks.
Yeah, elephant
Ebon
tusks.
male, ivory and ebony. It's obviously drawing that. So those are the dragoons of Ishgard and their spears. Yet her point, her probably meaning Hydaelyn, remains ever trained upon scales of black. Scales of black most likely means Dravania. It could also just mean the ebon males. Peer deep into the dust which swirls in our wake. That's no doubt talking about the 1,000-year war. And know the bloody dance of light and dark to be everlasting. That kind of just tells me that this 1,000-year war is not as close to ending with Heavensward as we might think it is. I think it's kind of a message that, hey, every time you win, something else is going to happen. So I think it's mostly talking about the Battle of Ishgard that we're going to be seeing in 2.55, and then that'll be leading us into Heavensward.
I like Unlimited Hazama's in chat, their speculation. It talks about Dragoon face planting the ground. That's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, well, her point ever remains upon scales of black. You know, your vision goes black when you pass out. So exactly.
The Dragoon is dead and wins the pony. That's the way.
He's using an ivory spear. That's like item level like 20 something. Come on, man. No wonder he's dying. He can't do anything.
All right, so we kind of hinted at this last episode, and we stayed away from some story elements. It's really been time now that if you haven't played these things, okay, fine. But I'll put it out there just to be safe. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
We'll do a thumbs up.
We'll give you the patented Mr. Happy spoilers over thumbs up from his videos. Yes. So if you don't want story spoilers at this point, we are about to speculate how we're getting into Ishgard and why. All right, so if you don't want current story, mute it. Fair warning. We speculated last time before the fall is referencing Ul'dah. We speculated an assassination. How does this lead us into Ishgard?
I think a big thing with Ishgard is going to come. First, we're going to have to learn about the Keeper of the Lake. That's going to be a big thing. We're going to learn about the origins of the Dravanian War. That's going to lead us into talks with Ishgard. But another big thing is that the Ascians have already kind of weaseled their way into Ishgard's inner workings. It seems that they're in direct control of their leader, similar to how they may have been in control of Thancred earlier without the actual possession aspect of it.
And we've seen hints of that in the Shiva story, sequence.
I think even Defenders of Eorzea, we saw a bit of that too. I think at the very end is where we saw the No, you know what? That was, I can't really remember. But we've had multiple inklings of that going forward, and it's hard to tell it's almost hard to tell now if the fall could mean something along the lines of Ishgard as well. I mean, if the dragons were to go to all-out war, they've hinted several times they would probably not be able to survive much longer, that they're running kind of low on resources in order to defend themselves from the army. And I think that's gonna play a big role. The fact that they are basically saying we don't have people to spare, we've held out for 1,000 years, but even we have our limits. Things like that, they're finally going to be like, all right, we got to do this. Like, we can't be locked away. We're going to die. They're going to die. We're all going to die. We need the full Eorzean alliance back. Dragons attack. We help Ishgard. We earn their trust. Bam, inside. They still don't like us really, but too bad they need us.
Yeah, and not only we need to band together, but one city-state is already going to be, I think, in ruins for a little while. And the recognition of that is, oh, shit, they're banded together in one fell. We're on the ropes ourselves. It's time for us to open the gates, as they say. Time for us to open the gates. I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to it. I want to see. I mean, I don't want to see it, but I want to see them kill off, a leader. I mean, that's a pretty cool story arc thing. Who succeeds? Succeeds.
It depends on if it plays out and it turns into a republic.
You think it's
Raban? And having to vote for a leader, because that's I believe part of the reason Ul'dah has its name is because the Ul monarch line has ruled it since its inception, and that's Nanamo Old Namo. Pretty sure that's a big thing behind the controlling aspect of it. Raoban is a big one. I mean, everyone kind of sees Raoban as the leader now anyway. I mean, even when you do your summoning of the leaders, it's the Grand Company leaders, but Raoban's the one that you can summon that is just a Grand Company leader and is not a full-blown head of Ul'dah. So it would be anybody, it would be Raoban, but I don't think he's really political enough, I guess I'll call it that, in order to really take the lead. I don't know, they never really haven't given us any good candidates other than Raubon.
I think it's terribly interesting killing off a big character like that in an MMO. They better not lay a hand on Nanamo. Dead. Goodbye. Just chalk it up as dead.
She could survive. And
no,
just
don't say that, Happy. She dies.
Okay, she's dead. Past tense now.
Yeah, even if she doesn't die before the fall, she's dead on this show. From now on...
You know what I just realized here? The spoiler warning, and that people are talking about it in the chat. So anybody... It's like, no, they won't kill Nanamo. Oh, what are they talking about? No.
All right, let's give them the thumbs up. Let them come back. Anybody... Hold on, it's a Mr. Happy video, so we got to stay here for 24 minutes.
All right, I guess I can use the bathroom.
All right, let's get ready to move on here. We got a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but before we do that, let's give a little shout out to our sponsors. Our big one, you know them, you love them. They've been a sponsor of Game Breaker TV for a long time. Audible, couldn't be happier to have them. And I picked up a good book, and I wanted to show it to everybody here. As You Wish. If you are a Princess Bride dork, and I am the Princess Bride dork, I love the movie, love the book by William Goldman, the abridged version of S. Morgenstern's. Fantastic book. So and great movie. If you are interested in that behind-the-scenes type stuff, As You Wish, Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride is a fantastic book. And it's obviously on Audible narrated to you, but it's narrated by just about the entire cast of the movie. So let's take a little listen here for us Princess Bride dorks.
But to counter that sadness is the camaraderie of being back with those who are here tonight and who stood alongside me so many years ago. Rob Reiner, Billy Crystal, Carol Kane, Wallace Shawn, Chris Sarandon, and Mandy Patinkin. Not to mention Robin Wright, looking as lovely as she did the first day I laid eyes on her. Then again, she has always set a rather ridiculously high standard for beauty, and that seems not to have changed. The only ones who couldn't make it were Christopher Guest and Fred Savage, who unfortunately were busy working on other projects.
Really? Somebody gave Fred Savage work? Anyway, As You Wish, Inconceivable Tales, take a look at it. Great book if you're into that whole behind the scenes of making a movie, stuff like that. And it's one of the free books that you could pick by using that URL. Best way to support Game Breaker is to support our sponsors. Audible.com/GameBreaker has been there for a very, very long time as a Game Breaker sponsor. Show your love. Get your 30-day free trial. Check out a free audiobook. And if you're into some dorky stuff like I am, there's plenty there to choose from. Audible.com/GameBreaker. Okay. Happy. We've got some bad news to report.
Bad news, yeah?
Final Fantasy XIV not doing all that well.
Nope.
Doing very poorly.
Whoever believed it was doing well in the first place.
If you are on your server and you think there's actually a lot of people there, you're being duped. There are not.
It's all bots.
They're all bots. If you're playing Final Fantasy XI and you think you see other players, that's a lie. And if you're watching us from Japan, that's awesome. Cool. Thanks for being here. And you're playing Dragon Quest X online. There's no players in that either. So here's what happened a few days ago. Yes, yeah, chat. They have -3 billion subscribers. Square Enix owes 3 billion of us $5 or $15 a month. So here's the deal. This past weekend, leading up into the weekend, Polygon, to my knowledge, it started on Polygon. That's where I first saw it, and then everywhere else that I saw it sourced Polygon.
Absolutely.
And so when I saw it maybe 10 minutes after the story posted, and I was like, well, that's an interesting headline. Click. I've been baited. Reading through the article, I'm like, this can't be correct information. So here's the deal. Polygon posted a story saying that Square Enix MMOs as a whole, Final Fantasy XI, Final Fantasy XIV, Dragon Quest X, which is only in Japan, had less than 1 million subscribers total. And that they quoted Square Enix financial reports that were just released. And there's air quotes. Happy can't see my camera because
Brand
I'm
new
broadcasting.
No, I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah. So when you take a look at the data, technically, they got it right. Technically, Polygon was reporting correct data, were they not?
Oh, yeah.
That's what the Square Enix report said. It was 100%
Absolutely.
correct.
It's there on the internet for everyone to see. Can't deny it.
Just sucks that the report they were quoting was 10 months old. It was Square Enix's financial 2014 close of 2013 close of fiscal 2013-2014 report, which was published at the end of their fiscal year, March of 2014. That is, count them, about 6 months after the Final Fantasy XIV release. And so at that time, those I totally buy those numbers, because we've constantly heard from Square Enix that Final Fantasy XI trends between 100,000 and 200,000 subscribers.
Have we heard that?
I've seen two different articles, and they're years old at this point, but that it's around the 200,000 mark. I don't think it's that high anymore. I put it more around the 100,000 mark.
I just remember that they had that one time where all three of the directors for the MMOs were in the same room, and the Final Fantasy XI guy didn't want to talk.
Nope.
He's like, I don't want to talk about how many logins we have every day. I don't want to. And Yoshi's like, no, you're doing good. I believe in you.
Well, so if we put that, I mean, let's map this out, though. That's six months after launch. If we put Final Fantasy XI at 100,000 subscribers, which I think is a fair estimate, 200,000 may be being a bit generous, so we'll say 100,000. And when we put Dragon Quest X, which is only available in Japan, at 100...
on the Wii U.
100. Oh, yeah, well, I didn't say just PC. I said only in Japan.
But it is on the Wii U, so it's more people.
Yeah, all 40 of them.
They're all playing Smash. Who am I kidding?
So yeah, it's on the PC and Wii U in Japan. Dragon Quest X MMO. If we put that at, would you say it's fair to put that at 100,000? Let's be generous. We'll put them at 200,000. Japan is a lot of people.
From that same article where the Final Fantasy XI guy didn't want to speak up. I don't know when that was, but I remember him saying 300,000.
All right, but that was also like 6 months ago too.
Yeah, so it puts it at about. I'm pretty sure it was before this, though. I'm pretty sure it was before that their fiscal year. I'll have to double check, but 300,000.
All right, so let's put them at 250.
They didn't gain a massive surge of players.
Let's put them at 250 then. How's that?
Yeah. 250 is good.
250.
Compromise.
We'll put them at 250,000. These numbers are totally frickin' made up, but 100,000.
Yeah, tell your friends.
Yeah, 100,000 for 11, 250,000 for Dragon Quest X. That's 350,000 out of a million. That leaves 650,000 for Final Fantasy XIV to be eating. Now, compare that again. This is in March. In November, we actually got a subscriber announcement for Final Fantasy XIV, and it was 600,000 at that point. So all these numbers seem like they make sense to me, right? I mean, that
absolutely
for the end of March.
Absolutely.
I would be surprised. Honestly, I think Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy XI are probably still just hovering right there. But I would be honestly surprised if Final Fantasy XIV didn't have more than 650,000 subscribers right now. Would you?
Okay, I would say I think it actually has about that many, but I've been doing a new video where I level a character. Every day I log in, there's different new people. And I refuse to believe that all of them are bots or just like people making new characters on my server. There's a lot of brand new characters. Every day I see at least 10 to 15 of them.
And I know, chat, we're gonna start breaking down some of the little pieces of this. I mean, chat's already jumping ahead of us. That's okay. Shows they're paying attention.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna get into China and stuff like that too, because obviously these numbers coming out in March of 2014 don't tell the whole picture. Now, China is hard to kind of put into the mix because of the whole difference in models and whether you're paying for a subscription.
And we haven't heard anything since it launched.
I don't think it's doing really well in China, actually. I think it's kind of hurting. And who is it? Is it Shanda? Is that who's responsible for
didn't
distribution?
Shanda do Riften?
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, and they did those stupid advertisements with like NBA stars and stuff for Rift, and it was whatever.
I remember.
You remember
that.
those commercials? They were awful.
They're terrible.
So, but yeah, I don't think Final Fantasy XIV is doing all that well in China, and to me it kind of makes sense because it is a very, very, very Western MMO as far as most of its core structure goes.
I'm sure they love the Relic Quest.
Oh, yeah, but here's another thing: PS4 hadn't even launched it yet when this financial data came out at the end of March, right? We still had a couple of months before it turned up on the PS4.
Was it April?
Yeah, so we had like
I remember February being a thing for. Oh no, February was the day the PlayStation 4 launched in Japan.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of what. I think it came out in April. I think the day it came out in Japan, the PlayStation 4 beta started.
So PlayStation 4 version wasn't even out yet by these numbers. So are you sticking at 650 or do you think higher, lower? Where are we?
Now, honestly, if I hadn't made this new character and started leveling in the lower level areas again, I might believe it, because in a lot of the mid-level areas you tend to, if you don't see people fake grinding and like court this, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people online. So it seemed to me like a fair assumption, especially when you look at servers that have less active party finders, because whether those servers were created out of a panic to too many people that couldn't fit on the servers and they're still just barely being populated now, it's hard to say. But every day I log in, I see 10 to 15 new players that I didn't see before. And that's a sign of a healthy growth in a game if it's still happening after all this time, or at least to me it seems like a healthy growth. So I'm not putting the numbers that much higher. I'm going between like 850 and 900 though. Like close to 1 million is where I'm going to go.
I mean, on Behemoth, our server, Game Breaker Nation, if you're looking for a free company and you're on Behemoth, join up, man. We have a blast. We still have queue times occasionally. During primetime hours United States time. So it's I don't see them shutting servers down. Now granted, there are a few that are probably ready to be merged. You know, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that all servers are completely healthy and fine. They're not. There's some that could probably benefit from
even WoW's been doing mergers with those servers. Like, it's totally something that's normal for some servers to just go under the radar.
Here's my thing. I hate, and China, chat's asking about China, do they have a subscription? They have an option for a subscription, however, they don't have to play the game. They can do their, like, pay for blocks of time. They can
pay by the hour, I think.
They can pay for blocks of time type deal. So it's really hard to count Chinese subscriptions. Even, you know, World of Warcraft and everybody has a hard time with that whole model, too, as far as what do we count, what don't we count. Here's my thing. I want to put it at over 1 million, but I can't. Because in my brain, if I just had to look at the numbers and map out the number of servers and which servers are like ours, like Behemoth and your server, which ones are constantly shut down for character creation and going back up, and which ones aren't, and do the math on how many people can a server support, which we know that number is roughly around 8,000, 6,000 to 8,000, and we know that from server upgrades that they specifically told us the number of people that it could handle at one given time. If I did all the math, I'd love to be like, they're probably at about 1.2. But I can't do that, and here's why. We constantly hear the 2.5 million adventurers number. I mean, we hear it all the time. It was 2, then it was 2.5, and it's going to go up and up and up and up. That number will never, ever go down. There will never be less than 2.5 million adventurers in Eorzea, ever. It's going to go up. I have to think, though, that if Square Enix got an MMO RPG above 1 million subscribers, that would be plastered all over the homepage for Square Enix that day. Absolutely. I have to think that if they breached that 1 million threshold, they would say something. Generally, I know that they're not going to be giving us numbers after numbers after numbers after numbers every other month, letting us know where the subscribers are. That's just bad business for a company that has shareholders. But good business for a company that has shareholders is to say, boom, we have over 1 million subscriptions. And that's the part that makes me reel back and say it's probably at around 800,000. Probably at around 800,000.
You know, that number was, while it's still in the ads or any online thing they do, they took it off the main website due to complaints on the Japanese forums that it was false advertising. If you go to the Lodestone right now, that 2.5 million is not there.
Oh yeah, the adventurers tag.
Yeah, it just says buy now, and then it says view your character profile, log in now, where it used to say 2.5 million.
That's, by the way, I'm not bashing. I mean, those are impressive numbers, and any MMO on the market would love to have 600 to 800,000 subscriptions. You know, those are impressive numbers.
And the fact that they're not upgrading the servers or that the servers were only designed to support that many people in the first place, probably means that's where they kind of want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, Final Fantasy XI's had 1/6 to 1/8 of that for 12 years now. And it's the most profitable Final Fantasy in the franchise. So, it is impressive, but kudos to Polygon for breaking news. Jeez.
I wonder if that article's still up on IGN, because that's where I first saw it, and then I got linked back to Polygon.
I do have to give credit where due, though. I guess a good credit and a bad credit on this one. Credit to Massively. I have a lot of friends that work at Massively, and so I didn't want to be mean to Massively, but I was going to. However, they took out the article after a couple of people commented and said, "Hey, this stuff's 10 months old." They did what I had suggested to a cohort of mine when I saw the article. I said, "If you just realized what you made the mistake now, pull it. Just pull it. You know, don't update it like Polygon did with one sentence at the bottom that's like, correction."
By the way, that's not right.
Correction. This data's from March 2014. So kudos to Massively for pulling it. A WTF to MMORPG, who not only posted this story on the 2nd of January and sourced Polygon, but then on the 4th of January decided to write a supplemental article on the same data about Square Enix's entire financial portfolio, and not just 3 MMOs. Wow. Flabbergasted. Just pull it. I've posted stupid shit online before. If you knew some of the videos I've pulled from my YouTube channel after posting it and realizing I made a huge mistake in it, or an article I've put on it, just pull it. Pull it.
It's gone. It never existed.
Never happened.
Nobody already has it locked away and is ready to duplicate it.
Never happened. Never happened.
Nope, it's never happened in the history of ever.
In the history of ever.
The history of ever. It's never happened.
All right. Finally today, let's talk about, before we get to viewer questions, remember, chat, if you want to be part of the show, you can set your... oh, man, I was distracted by a comment here. Isn't leaving it and updating it with a correction the better practice? Usually I would agree with you, yes. But if your data is so far off that it's 10 months old and doesn't apply to the premise of the article, it's not that you got one fact wrong. The premise for the entire piece is wrong. So in my decision, they get pulled.
Yeah.
You pull an article like that. If Polygon just deleted it, they'd get ripped for that too. Yes, you would. You're absolutely right. You'd get ripped for pulling an article, and you deserve to. And you deserve to. When I've done it and I've gotten caught on it, I totally deserve the internet tongue lashing that I took. You're absolutely right. But you get much less of a tongue lashing for pulling the article than leaving it there for people to continuously clickbait hit and comment. And when the premise of the article is on faulty information or old, outdated information, the whole article doesn't stand up. It's not like you got a fact wrong. In that case, correct it. Yeah, right call. Maybe that's just me. All right, so if you want to be a part of the show, we want your viewer questions. We used to do this at the beginning of XIV Reborn when we first started doing the show. Use Twitter, hashtag XIV Reborn, and we will get your questions, as many of them as we can on here. They don't even have to be Final Fantasy XIV related. You want to talk about something else? Let's talk about something else. Happy and I are flexible like that. We've been going to the gym. We're flexible.
Good, we've been stretching.
Yes, it's good we've been stretching. But before we get to your viewer questions, you've got a couple minutes to get them in while we talk about the last segment here. I want to get some Heavensward speculation in. We've already guessed on the date, the release date. Here's what I want to do. We'll kind of treat this like just a Q&A, a general Q&A. We're going to run down a list. I've put a bunch of things in a list. And yes, XIV Reborn is weekly, every Monday. I've put a bunch of things in a list here. I think you've looked at these, right? Or am I catching you off guard with these?
No, I've seen it.
Okay, cool. What we're going to do is I'm going to bring up some things that are in the game now or have been in the game since the launch of A Realm Reborn. We're not going to revisit 1.0. Since 2.0 forward, and I want to know, is it going to be in Heavensward going forward? Is it not going to be there? Or if they're going to just change it in some way. And if you have any speculation on how they're going to change it, feel free. And we'll both kind of chime in on these. I think the number one, just so I don't have to take any viewer questions on this one, we're going to do this first.
Good idea.
Is the Relic / Zodiac / Saga of the Braves, whatever you want to call it, is that whole quest line done? Does it continue in more quests to continue upgrading this new weapon? Or are we going to see an entirely new Relic / weapon quest chain? What do you think?
I think it's going to finish, but if you do finish it, you'll have a severe edge going into a new quest going into Heavensward. Because, let's be real here, Dark Knight, Machinist, Astrologian, they're not going to make them start at the little 50 relic quest and work it all the way up to Heavensward. They would never do that, because nobody would do it. So I am going to say new one, but if you finish it, you will probably get it done a lot faster than everyone else.
Are you proud of me? I got my Animus this week since you
I am proud of you.
Since you beat me up on the last show about not having it.
Just a few more to go now.
Yep.
Just a few more to go.
I'm
You're almost there.
farming my Alexandrite now for my Black Mage. I tend to think this is going to be continued, and this is never, ever, ever going to stop now, which just really makes me very sad. So it's just going to keep going on.
That's why I think they're going to do a new one for people who didn't care for this anymore.
It's just going to be the same thing with a new weapon.
No, man, we're going to fight a Ishgardian Chimera, an Ishgardian Hydra, or a Jarvanian Hydra, and a Jarvanian Chimera.
What do you think about Relic Armor? I mean, that kind of got ditched very early in 2.0, didn't it?
People complain enough about the weapon. What did you think anybody would want to do that for 5 pieces of armor? No. No.
All right, they brought this one up, they being Square Enix and Yoshi P, with a little question mark on the Tokyo Fan Fest live letter. Hildebrand quests. I know you're a Hildebrand baby. Are they actually going to continue?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is the guy that posed at the beginning of the show. Great shirt.
It was a gift. It's going to continue. Come on. Come on now. Did you even have to include this question mark?
I'm kind of in the camp of I don't care.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I to be honest, the whole one going up to the fight with Ultros, escape. You know, whatever.
But don't you like seafood soup?
Hey, first try I got the minion, so that's all I cared about.
Son of a bitch.
Here's another one. Challenge logs.
I don't know that we'll get too many new ones, but people are gonna want to use those going from 50 to 60. Absolutely, yeah. I think
this one makes total sense, especially again new jobs. You got to put them, give them the same experience opportunities that the other jobs had going, and so why not make it from 50 to 60 as well if you got to put all the challenge logs in for the new jobs anyway. I think that one. Now here's one I'm really interested to get your take on. Sightseeing logs.
I'm sure that you're very interested in more sightseeing logs considering the reward at the end.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the viewer questions.
Look, we're going to be flying all over the place. Of course we're getting sightseeing logs. No, actually, I don't think they're going to do them. I think they realize that people don't really care for them all that much. So it's not like they're hard to develop, but I'm going to go with no.
I'm also going with the sightseeing logs going away. Well, not being disappeared or anything. If you have it, great, go ahead and do it. But I don't think we're getting anything additional there. You know what? Here's the thing with the sightseeing logs. I really actually liked the idea on paper when it was first described to us, pre the patch that dropped it.
Yeah.
And I really would have liked to have seen them implemented a la Guild Wars 2, right? Where it's a vista and it's challenging to get to, maybe a little jumpy puzzle, and this one's really easy, and this one's a pain in the ass, you know, that type of deal. And you get up there, you click the button, you have your nice vista, boom, you're done, you go. The weather, oh my God, what were you thinking?
No problem.
What were you thinking? It was kind of to
weird?
me that they were like, you know what people really loved in Final Fantasy XI when we had all this stuff that was weather dependent. The people really loved that. They really loved that. How could we do that in this game? We don't want it to impact stats. We've already taken elemental stuff out from version 1.0. How could we? I know. Let's make the vistas weather dependent. Sit in the desert and wait for it to frickin' rain. Nice. That's a good job. Good job, Lenny. Code it. Oh my God.
I mean, Lenny works at Square Enix.
Awful. Yeah, and poor Fishers have had to deal with that since day one.
The strategies for some of the sightseeing logs are hilarious. I saw somebody doing sightseeing log number 48 the other day, and I watched him just try for 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, all right, let me help this guy. The trick is you're supposed to lower your maximum FPS to 30, and it makes the jump easier to do. So I did it. I was like, kill yourself. I'll raise you up here so you don't have to do it.
Yeah, chat, you're absolutely right. That chat knows who I'm talking about, Lenny Tanaka. He's one of the programmers.
Yeah, it's obviously. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, there's a great idea. Let's add humidity and pressure and actual temperature to this. You have to know the temperature.
There has to be 4 worms coming out of the piece of dirt.
Oh my God. Make it vistas. Make them a little challenging to get to. You already launched saying, Yoshi P said back before launch, you know, jump, since we're adding it, because it, you know, wasn't invert. It's not going to be, you know, required for anything in the launch of the game. We're past the launch of the game now. Jump can be required. It's a year later. Put in jumping puzzles instead. Take the sightseeing logs.
Some of them actually are pretty nice jumping puzzles, but by some of them I mean like 4, but the other 76 are not.
And it's only fun. You only jump when it's thunderstorm out. Got to have new materia, right? I think this one's a no-brainer. Just gonna ask it to be complete here. Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure in the files for the game, there's been grade 5 materia there for a pretty long time, and we know that one of the main story quests gives you grade 5 carbonized matter. I don't see why they would give that to you if they weren't eventually planning on doing it. I don't know why they gave it to us in the first place, but preparing for Heavensward, I guess.
I don't like to toot my own horn, but I am a max level postmaster. Or letter carrier. I don't know if you know this. I think you do. I think I tweeted it.
How does that work out? How does that work out for you in Coil?
Well, okay. Wow, that was a dick move.
Are you the carrier? Or are you the carried?
So are we going to see more MOG Postmaster quests? I think so. But here's my question for you, because I think you agree that they're going to continue with that too, just like they're going to continue with Hildebrand. But are they going anywhere with this anytime soon? We had a tweet before the show went up about some stuff like this. What's going on?
Yeah. It's just there for people who want to know more about the world, which I'm totally for. I mean, there's actually some pretty interesting things going on if you care. If you don't care, then don't do them. That's the way I feel about them. I like some of the characters that they're exploring. And we're going to touch on this in a second here, but there's one thing in particular I think they might be doing with the post-Moogle quest that I'm very interested in.
Go ahead into it now. Yeah, I kind of segued to it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, so there was a comment on the official forums today from Gurkuma, and it says, we don't want to spoil any of the details pertaining to upcoming content, but there are plans to continue some of the class quests for the classes that currently exist in Eorzea while also creating new stories. I do not think that necessarily means there's going to be literally more class quests, like going a level 35 quest for the Pugilist Guild. I think that we may explore those characters through the Postmaster quests, and if you've actually paid attention to some of those class quests are phenomenal, and in my opinion, better done than the job quests that follow them. The Pugilist Guild being a great example of one of the more fun class quests I had fun doing. So I think we might see them eventually expand on more important NPCs and less of the non-important NPCs, which has been the majority of them so far.
Story. Speaking of story.
Yeah.
So here's one that I think is kind of interesting for us to dig into. Do you think 2.0 story completion is going to be required to launch into the 3.0 story? Now let me clear this one up a little bit and smooth some of the edges on this question, okay? I mean, because I'm not saying Is there going to be new 1 through 50 story? No, there isn't. It's just go with the new classes and do your thing. But if you're a brand new player, you start September of this year, and you buy Heavensward and you buy everything, and you boot this game up, when you hit 50, you've played the story up to 50. Right at 50. You just finished Praetorium. Ding! There you go. You're at 50. Do you have to do all the other post-50 story in 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, etc., etc., etc. to launch into the 3.0 story, or do you think just being level 50 is enough to open that stuff up and keep it moving?
I think just being level 50, I mean, come on, man. I would not want to have to do 2.1 to 2.5 unless that was also going to take me to level 60 at the same time. That's the only way you can incentivize
Oh, chat says an ode to Matt fight from Final Fantasy XI. Hell yeah. Give me a Matt fight. No,
a Matt fight? He's coming. He's coming back, man. That's how they're going to do the class quest.
That's before the fall. Matt arrives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it works just like Dalamud.
Don't even elaborate.
Boom.
Unless they end up changing the levels for the quest to somehow get you to level 60, which I don't know how it'd be possible because of the dungeons that are in there, it would just seem kind of ridiculous to kind of be running them as like a level 54 or 58 or something. No. They've always been about ease of access until the Relic quest came out, and then I don't think that this would really fit with that ease of access. They want people to actually play the expansion, not have to run around Mordona doing 18 friggin' delivery quests to fight Ramuh.
I think quite a bit of the story arc is going to be required.
It would have to be all of it.
No,
it would have to be all of it.
It doesn't have to be all of it. You can
look at the way 2.5 is ending. How would it not have to be all of it?
I think some of this is going to be required. I think some of it, a big portion of it is going to be required. Otherwise, it just, I see where you're going, right? From a player's perspective, you want to jump into that new content, you go. From a developer's perspective, great, you want to jump into that new content and go. But Final Fantasy is so story-driven in all of its games, not just 14, that I can't see them intentionally putting a breakpoint in there where the launch of the story you're about to go into, because you hit 50 and you're going to start your trek to 60, makes no sense to you. Because all of the characters you've seen up till 50 don't play into anything, and the characters that are starting from 50 to 60 haven't played into anything for you yet. There's got to be some bridge that they're talking about putting in here.
If it's not all the way to the end of 2.5, I just don't know what that bridge would be. That's the only thing. I don't want to believe. I don't want to believe it. I'm not totally against the idea. I just don't want to believe they're going to do that. You know, I'd imagine the main story missions for Heavensward are meant to take us from 50 to 60 on the first class that we decide to do them on, and that everything's all going to be sunshine.
See, here Mero said in chat, who's another Game Breaker Nation peep, says, to throw it back to Final Fantasy XI, you don't have to beat Rise of Zilart to start Change of Promathia. And you're absolutely right. But to me, that's totally different, because those expansion packs had very little main character crossover between the main story arcs, where this is going to be one continuous story arc in through Heavensward in Final Fantasy XIV.
To counter that, there's a special fight that's only available if you finish both Rise of Xylar and Chains of Promathia, because the characters cross at that point.
Right.
I don't know. Unfortunately, that supports the one thing I don't want to believe is going to happen. But I mean, it's just so hard to do. I mean, I can't deny the fact that it would just be hard to do. It's probably going to happen. I just don't want to believe it.
Probably is. Chat, and if you're watching on YouTube, put your comments down below what you think they're going to continue and what they're not going to continue. Let's go over and do some viewer questions. You ready?
I'm always ready.
Chris Radford from Twitter says, with your long absence, talking to me, Byrne, how far behind are you on your quest to catch them all, the minions? So yeah, if you don't know, part of the reason that the show took a break for a while is I got really, really involved. I'm very involved in local theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I got slammed with a bunch of theater stuff at once. So not only did we take a break from this show, but there was a period of about a month and a half where I couldn't even play. Final Fantasy XV, let alone anything else. So I took about a month and a half off from the game, and we took off, 2 or 3 or 4 months off from the show, something like that. So according to Final Fantasy ARR Wiki, because this number constantly changes, because every time there's an event, something goes in, or something is in the notes, or in the code, but it's not in the game yet. Currently, there are 109 minions. According to XIV, Final Fantasy XIV ARR Wiki, there's 109 minions. 109. I have 102. 102. So I'm not very far behind at all. However...
One of those, a fledgling Apollo?
No, it's not, damn it! Because I can't bring myself to do the sightseeing log. Do you know how many of them I have done? 6.
How many?
6. I did 4 that were sunny weather. I hit 2 that were weather dependent. And when I was like, oh, how many of these are weather dependent? Pulled up a guide, looked at them, and I was like, fuck that minion.
Hey, guess who has all 80 of them done?
Yeah.
One of my favorite minions.
How's that helping you in Coil?
It's one of the rarest minions. Oh, I prayed to him before for loot. Actually, I pray to the Alto.
I do have Nutkin, though. I do have that minion, so.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I think that one's rarer than the Apollo.
Yeah, surprisingly, right?
And the Fat Cat, too.
Yep. So there you go. Michael Bruin actually has 2 questions. I hear that leveling, and somebody from chat threw this question in there too, so this is a good one. I hear that leveling from 50 to 60 in Heavensward will take the same time as 1 through 50. Do you think it's true? I'm going to go with
no. That's going off World of Warcraft trends, and I've suspected it might, but at the same time, I don't want to believe it.
No, I'm going with no. I'm going with no.
I'm gonna go with half the time.
Didn't ask for a prediction. Just what do you think that's true?
Think about how long 45.
See, now you're just trying to make the video longer.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what I'm good for.
His second question is a YouTuber by the name of Farazon's out there saying that your limit break bar fills faster if you sprint. What? So that is Michael Bruin's what? That's not my what?
Is it like the minion from...
What? That's the viewers. So this actually isn't anything new. I've seen this theory as far back as like January, February of this year. And if you've never heard this, which a lot of people haven't, the theory goes like this. TP consumption helps your limit break. Therefore, casters who are not using TP for anything, a la Black Mage, if I'm in a fight and I don't have to sprint out of the way of anything, I'm probably not using my TP, should click their sprint every time it is up to help feed a faster limit break gauge. And in theory, it makes sense. Keep in mind, obviously, there are some fights that it doesn't matter, a la turn 2. Where it's a timer, the limit break's a complete timer. It
matters if you're not waiting 12 minutes to do the fight, okay?
Right, where it's a timer, so there you go. But is it true or not? I'm going to bring it to you. I mean, I know my answer, but I'm figuring that you, as part of a hardcore rating guild, have crunched the numbers on everything possible to squeeze out that extra limit break, that extra DPS. Give us the scoop. Does limit break fill faster if you sprint?
It seems to. It's honestly, it's not like you're going to see it jump half a bar, but you do notice when you're in a fight, the limit bar gauge gradually ticks up without any sort of involvement, and that's believed to be the TP and MP consumption. But even if you're not using anything, it ticks up anyway. So the amount of difference it would make if it is true is really, really small, and it's really just for pushing that last tiny little bit. But over time, I've had so many groups go with the sprint, and it does seem to go faster, but I never really paid attention to it much before I became a ninja because nobody ever wanted my bard limit break. So I'm going to say yes. From what I've seen, from how often it's recommended to be used, I'm going to have to say yes, as little as I care because I've never been a mage who sprints.
I gotta say no, just because simply I hope to God that is not true, because what a stupid mechanic to be factored into this. The Black Mage that isn't moving just triggered sprint. I mean, come on. I hope that is not true, but Unfortunately, I have to agree with you. Everything I've seen and shaken out kind of leads me to believe that there's a piece of programming meant to be used for these other classes and their TP consumption that just unfortunately impacts the other classes as well. And so I do believe there may be something in there there's a little bit of truth to this one, I think.
Yeah.
Viper, also from Game Breaker Nation. Lots of Game Breaker Nation peeps. Thanks for coming out and supporting the show. Love you guys. Love you guys. And if you're watching this on Happy's channel, come and hang out. Game Breaker TV, you're always welcome here. And I'm always in Happy's chat when he's streaming too, so feel free to say hi.
Now I know you're watching.
Love you. Viper says, do you think there'll be a gap in development after the release of Heavensward? I'm gonna go first, if you don't mind. I'm gonna say probably not. And that's because we've seen, well, we haven't seen, but we've been told for the last year and a half now what they're already working on. Even before Realm Reborn launched, we knew that they were almost up to 4.0 as far as story and the beginning level of that stuff. Where I think we might start to see a fall off is after expansion number 2. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little bit of a fall off then, because they don't have a closed server development anymore. It's a live product, and they probably would not be able to keep for the last 2 years the development cycle that they had prior to a Realm Reborn launching, where it was full closed door development. So I'm going to go with probably not after Heavensward, but probably a significant difference in timing of release post second expansion.
I completely agree, although I have different supporting theories.
Go for it.
One big thing I think will, again, halt the development process when 4.0 comes out is really that's probably when the PS3 is going to get dropped. Now, you'd think that would mean it'd be less because they'd have to stop trying to figure out ways to fit it onto PlayStation 3 or figure out how it's going to work.
Well, and they've even publicly said that. Yoshi P said, we're going to support PlayStation 3 up to 4.0. Beyond that, we'll have to look at it. I'm sorry, he said at least 4.0. At least 4.0.
Because they want to see if it's still holding them back. Which, by 4.0, I mean...
It's already. I think it's already.
When you have to buy an SSD for it, you know it's got some issues. But I think that them going the extra mile to see what they can do now that their limit has been lifted might cause them to spend a little bit more time developing certain things just to see if they can really push the envelope on the number of people able to fit in certain areas or mechanics, or the use of cutscenes within fights would be a big one. Like, oh, the boss has just died and he's transforming. Then PlayStation 3 players probably get the shaft to something like that happen. So yeah, I think I think right after 4.0, the development process is going to slow down a little bit, but still only to like 4.5 months as opposed to 3.5 months.
What, you don't want to do final turn for 14 months before an expansion? Is that what you're saying?
Nope, no, just not interested. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
All right, we'll do this like a Mr. Happy video. Two more questions. Hindolo, I'm going to butcher this and I apologize. Hindolo Senesi, I think I'm close there. Quick question, Burns, do you have pants on? No, I'm doing a podcast. And do you think the new jobs will be sharing gear with the current classes a la Ninja? We kind of covered this last week when we got information, or last show when we got information. No, they're not going to be using shared weapons because they have new weapons. They're using the Star Orb and the cards and guns, and so no.
I think and we pretty much concluded the healers will probably still share gear. The machinists maybe will share gear with the bard. I can't imagine them putting another set in there. But you have to consider if they're going to start using a token system, it may not be necessarily a bad idea to just give them their own sets. That's another thing you have to consider as well.
I think, obviously, weapon-wise, no. Gear-wise, I do think there's going to be a little bit of crossover.
Yeah, at least in the accessories. Definitely in the accessories, maybe not in the left-hand pieces.
Yeah, Burn wearing pants? Pff, come on. All right. I saw a question I really, really like. So two more from here.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
See, it's a true Mr. Happy video.
The true Mr. Happy video. It's not, listen, you're about to steal my reputation. I have nothing to do with this. I'm not the one picking them.
Kalo Karuga says, wondering if you guys think they'll lift the lockouts for Third Coil and WOD, the darkness, before 3.0 hits or after.
After.
I think it's going to be after, too.
After. They still want you going back, Labyrinth of the Ancients, Circus Tower. They still want you to be able to beat Second Coil before you go into Final. I don't see that changing.
All right, I just found one more that I really like, so 2 more.
There's still 2 more?
2 more. 2 more. But I
Okay.
swear that'll be the end of the video. Aowen,
Okay.
still want to do, to be able to summon my Chocobo while waiting for Duty Finder. Any word if they'll ever change that? I think the word's
Okay,
still
we
the
should end the
same.
show now.
I think the word's still the same. Yes, we'd like to. We're working on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So one more?
One more question. Do you think, from Rory, do you think the crafting gear out before expansion will be endgame crafting gear for the first few months of the expansion, since it's eye level 60?
No. I think you're going to have to remeld everything.
Oh, God, this is brutal.
It could happen. It could happen where that doesn't happen. It's probably going to happen, though.
You know him. You love him. There he is, Michael Poveromo, Mr. Happy. Follow him on Twitter at Mr. Happy1227. Where else can everybody in chat find you, sir?
Twitch.tv, Mr. Happy1227. Twitter at Mr. Happy1227. YouTube at Xehanort1227 because Google hates me. And Facebook at Mr. Happy1227.
I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. You can follow me on Twitter right there down below, at MagicMan1. That's MAGICKMANN1. Follow me on Twitter for all that fun stuff. We're on GameBreaker TV, XIVNation.com, everywhere. Just the internets. Do the internets. You know how it is. Until next time, gang. Next week, Monday at 7 Eastern. Stay safe. We'll see you out on the servers.